My name is Alyssa Morgan, and I'm 28 years old. If you'd asked me 3 years ago who I was, I would have said, I'm part of us. Not me, but us. I lived and breathed for my friend group. 6 of us, all women, all inseparable since college. We had nicknames for each other, matching bracelets, even a group chat that never went silent. We called ourselves the Hive. It sounds silly now, but back then, it meant everything. Whenever I walked into a restaurant and saw them waving, whenever I scrolled through our endless selfies on Instagram, I felt like I belonged. I wasn't just Alyssa, I was Alyssa from the Hive. And belonging was intoxicating. But here's the problem with belonging. Sometimes it blinds you to the cracks forming right beneath your feet. The cracks started small. It was the night of my 27th birthday. I'd organized a little rooftop dinner, string lights twinkling overhead, music humming softly in the background. Everyone showed up with big smiles and gift bags, except Lauren. Lauren was the unofficial leader of our group. She had this effortless charisma, the kind that made people lean in when she spoke. Her hair was always perfect, her outfits always coordinated, and her confidence filled every room she walked into. If the hive was a beehive, she was the queen bee. She arrived an hour late, no gift in hand, and instead of apologizing, she hugged me with a tight smile and said, "Don't worry, I'll make it up to you later." I brushed it off. She'd been busy at work, I told myself. She didn't mean anything by it. But when I looked back later, I realized that night was the first time I felt small. Like my birthday was an inconvenience. The second crack came a few months later. We had planned a weekend trip to Miami, something we'd been saving for since the beginning of the year. Flights booked, Airbnb reserved, outfits coordinated. But a week before the trip, I got a text in the group chat that made my stomach sink. Change of plans. Just 5 of us going. Alyssa, hope you don't mind. We'll do something local together soon. At first, I thought it was a mistake. A joke. But when I asked why, Lauren replied, "We just figured this trip wasn't really your vibe. Don't take it personally. Don't take it personally." The words echoed in my head for days. I cried that night, clutching my suitcase that I had already started packing. My mom tried to comfort me over the phone, but I couldn't explain it to her. To her, they were just friends. To me, they were my world. But the final crack, the one that broke everything, came in the most humiliating way possible. It was at brunch, our weekly tradition. We always went to the same cafe downtown, with its lavender lattes and avocado toast piled high. I showed up, excited to share some big news. I had just been promoted at my marketing job, the first major career step I'd ever had. But when I walked in, something was wrong. They were all there, Lauren, Jess, Brooke, Hannah, and Claire, laughing, sipping mimosas, their chairs pulled close together. My chair, the one I always sat in, was gone. I froze, standing by the door, my hazel eyes searching their faces for an explanation. Jess glanced at me, then quickly looked away. Hannah fiddled with her straw. Brooke gave me a weak smile. And then Lauren, always the bold one, raised her glass and said, loud enough for the whole cafe to hear, "Oh, Alyssa, we didn't think you'd be coming." This was kind of a hive-only brunch. The words cut through me like glass. A hive-only brunch. I stood there, my pale face burning, my heart pounding so loud I thought everyone could hear it. "I am part of the hive," I whispered, but my voice was swallowed by the clinking glasses and their awkward laughter. Lauren tilted her head with faux sympathy. "Not anymore. It's nothing personal. We just think the vibe is better without you." That was it. No warning, no reason I could understand. Just exile, right there in front of strangers sipping coffee and scrolling their phones. I stumbled out of the cafe, tears blurring my vision. I sat in my car and cried so hard my chest ached. My hands shook on the steering wheel as I whispered over and over, "What did I do wrong? What did I do wrong?" For days, I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I scrolled through our group chat, which was now silent to me, the notifications gone. I saw their Instagram posts, pictures from Miami, brunches, rooftop dinners, all with captions like "Hive Forever." And I was erased. But here's the part they didn't know. I didn't stay erased. At first, the pain hollowed me out. I felt worthless, invisible. But slowly, that hollow space began to fill with something else. Anger, yes, but also determination. If they didn't want me in their hive, fine. I would build something bigger, something they couldn't touch. I would become my own brand. And that was the beginning of everything. The days after the brunch incident were some of the darkest of my life. I'd go to work, sit at my desk, smile through meetings, but inside I was unraveling. My appetite vanished. Nights were the worst. I'd lie awake staring at the ceiling, replaying Lauren's words over and over. The vibe is better without you. Better without me. It was amazing how 5 words could stick like thorns in your skin. I tried to distract myself, scrolling through Instagram, but that only made it worse. Every photo of the hive felt like a dagger. Rooftop dinners, movie nights, even matching pajamas at sleepovers. I wasn't just absent. I was erased. It was like I'd never existed to them at all. I remember one night, sitting on the floor of my condo, scrolling until my eyes burned, whispering, "What did I do wrong? Why wasn't I enough?" But then something shifted. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was rage. But instead of crying, I suddenly thought, what if I stopped trying to be enough for them and started being enough for myself? That thought hit me like a lightning bolt. The next morning, I did something I hadn't done in weeks. I opened my laptop, not to check their socials, but to start something of my own. I'd always loved fashion, styling outfits, mixing colors, finding confidence in clothes. In college, I was the one my friends asked for advice before a night out. I'd put together outfits that made them feel unstoppable, even if I was invisible once the pictures were posted. So, I thought, why not share that? I created an Instagram page, styled by Alyssa. Nothing fancy, just my name and a blank profile. I took a deep breath, set up my phone on a stack of books, and snapped a photo of myself in a simple outfit, jeans, a cream blouse, and a blazer. I captioned it, "When life makes you feel small, wear something that reminds you how big you are." I hit post. I didn't expect anything. Honestly, I thought it might get 3 likes, one from my cousin Claire, one from my mom, and maybe a pity like from an old coworker. But when I checked later, it had 30 likes. Then 50. Then comments. This is exactly what I needed to hear. Love this look. So simple but powerful. Please post more outfit ideas. I sat there staring at my phone, tears filling my eyes. For the first time in weeks, I didn't feel erased. I felt seen. Of course, it wasn't magic overnight. At work, I still battled the voices in my head, Lauren's dismissal, Emily's silence, the group's betrayal echoing like a chorus. But every night, when I came home, I poured myself into my new page. I experimented with flat lays of accessories, little Monday motivation quotes paired with outfits, even short videos where I styled one piece of clothing 3 different ways. At first, my setup was laughable, my phone balanced on a chair, a lamp angled just right so the lighting didn't make me look like a ghost. I didn't have ring lights or fancy cameras, just determination. And slowly people noticed. By the end of the first month, I had 500 followers. By the third, I had 3,000. I couldn't believe it. Strangers were messaging me, thanking me for inspiring them, asking for tips before job interviews or first dates. Every time a message came in, I felt a piece of my broken heart stitched back together. But then came the test. One Friday night, I was scrolling through Instagram when I saw it. The Hive at another rooftop dinner, all lined up in their perfect outfits, laughing like nothing had changed. Except this time, one of them, Brooke, was wearing the exact outfit I'd posted 2 weeks earlier. Down to the blazer color, the belt, and the caption she copied almost word for word. When life makes you feel small, wear something that reminds you how big you are. My heart clenched. At first, I felt the old panic, the old ache of being stolen from, being unseen. But then, a different thought hit me. She had to take it from me because I'm the one creating now. I'm the one leading. For the first time, I realized I wasn't following them anymore. They were following me. The next week, something incredible happened. A small boutique downtown messaged me. "Hi Alyssa, we love your content. Would you be interested in styling some of our new collection for your page?" I stared at the message, my hands shaking.
Me?
They wanted me? I said yes, of course. And when I posted photos in their clothes, free clothes they sent me just for posting, I felt like the universe had flipped upside down. I wasn't just healing anymore. I was growing. Still, the ghosts of the hive lingered. Some nights, I'd scroll through their stories, see them laughing, see the bracelets I no longer wore. The ache would return, whispering, "You'll never be enough." But then I'd check my DMs, where girls from all over the country were writing, "Thank you for giving me confidence." And I'd remind myself, maybe I wasn't enough for them, but I was enough for me and for people who actually valued what I gave. The breaking point, the one that turned my little page into something unstoppable, came 6 months later. I was invited to speak at a local networking event for women in business. Just a 10-minute panel, nothing huge. I almost said no. The thought of standing on stage, telling my story, terrified me. But then I remembered that brunch cafe, Lauren's smirk, the humiliation of being told I didn't belong. And I thought if I could survive that, I can survive anything. So I stood on that stage, hands trembling at first, and told the truth. I was kicked out of my friend group. They made me feel like I didn't belong, like I wasn't enough. But instead of breaking, I built. And that rejection became the best thing that ever happened to me. When I finished, the room erupted in applause. Women came up to me afterward with tears in their eyes, sharing their own stories of rejection, of betrayal, of turning pain into power. And in that moment I knew I didn't need the hive. I was building something bigger than any group. I was building myself. Momentum is a funny thing. Once it starts rolling, it feels impossible to stop. That panel I spoke at, it changed everything. The morning after, my inbox was flooded. Messages from women who'd heard me, from small businesses who wanted to collaborate, from young girls saying they finally felt seen. For someone who had spent months believing I was invisible, that flood of recognition felt like sunlight pouring into a dark room. I started waking up excited again. Instead of dreading each day, I planned content calendars, brainstormed styling tips, and answered messages late into the night. I wasn't just posting outfits anymore. I was telling stories. Stories about rejection, about rebuilding, about finding power in clothes when you felt powerless everywhere else. And people connected. Not because I was perfect, but because I was honest. One evening, I got a call from Claire, my cousin, my safe place. "You won't believe this," she said, laughter in her voice. "I went to brunch with a coworker today, and she started talking about this page she follows styled by Alyssa. She said your posts help her feel confident going into meetings." I just about fell off my chair. I laughed too, my cheeks hot. "Are you serious?" "Dead serious," Claire replied. "You're making waves, Allie. People are talking." Her words sank deep. For the first time, I wasn't chasing whispers about the hive. I was becoming the one people whispered about. A few weeks later, it happened again, but this time from a very different source. I was scrolling through Instagram when I saw a notification. "Lauren started following you." I froze, my thumb hovering over the screen. The queen bee herself, the girl who told me to my face that the vibe was better without me, was now following my brand account. I clicked her profile. Sure enough, she'd been watching my stories. My heart raced, not with excitement, but with fury. Where was this energy when I cried in my car outside that cafe? Where was this attention when I begged myself to be enough for her approval? And yet, I didn't block her. I let her watch. If she wanted to see the girl she discarded build something bigger than her brunch table, so be it. But Lauren wasn't the only one. 2 days later, Brooke liked one of my posts. A week after that, Hannah commented, "So inspiring." I stared at their words, my mind swirling. Inspiring? From them? The same girls who erased me without a second thought? At first, I wanted to scream. To reply with the truth. You didn't find me inspiring when you laughed as I walked away. But instead, I said nothing. Silence can be louder than words. By month 9, things had exploded. I'd gone from 3,000 followers to 30,000. A popular fashion podcast invited me for an interview, and brands I'd only dreamed of were sliding into my DMs with offers. One of the biggest turning points came when a mid-sized national clothing retailer reached out. They wanted me to create a capsule collection, my name on a line of pieces. When I read the email, I dropped my phone on the couch and screamed. Me, Alyssa Morgan, once invisible, once discarded, was about to design clothes with my name stitched inside. I called Claire immediately, breathless. Claire, they want me to design a line. A whole line. My name, on clothes. She screamed too, louder than me. Are you kidding? Ally, this is it. This is your brand. Your moment. I pressed the phone against my ear, tears running down my cheeks. They told me I wasn't enough. And now, I'm too much for them to ignore. Of course, success didn't erase the pain overnight. Some nights, the old wounds reopened. One Saturday, I was out shopping when I bumped into Jess, one of the quieter girls from the hive. She froze when she saw me, her smile nervous. Alyssa. Wow, long time, she said. I forced a polite smile. Yeah, long time. She shifted uncomfortably, then blurted, I've been following your page. You're doing amazing. Honestly, I always thought you were the creative one in the group. The compliment should have warmed me, but instead it left me cold. Where was that support when I needed it? When Lauren cut me down in public, Jess stayed silent. I nodded stiffly. Thanks. Then I walked away. Later that night, I cried, not because I missed Jess, but because I finally understood. They hadn't kicked me out because I was unworthy. They'd kicked me out because I was inconvenient. Too different. Too much of a threat to the queen bee spotlight. And that realization, as painful as it was, freed me. The capsule collection launched 3 months later. The day of the photo shoot, I stood in a bright studio surrounded by racks of clothes I had helped design, sleek blazers, flowy dresses, bold accessories. My name, Alyssa Morgan, was printed on the tags. I ran my fingers over one of the labels, my hazel eyes filling with tears. I remembered that night I sat on the floor of my condo, scrolling through their photos, whispering, what did I do wrong? And I realized I hadn't done anything wrong. I had just been in the wrong hive. When the collection dropped, it sold out in 3 weeks. 3 weeks. I gained another 50,000 followers. My inbox exploded with messages from women tagging me in their outfits, saying things like, I've never felt so confident in clothes before, or thank you for designing pieces that make me feel powerful at work. Each message felt like a balm, a healing touch on old scars. And then one night, I got a DM from Lauren. Hey Alyssa, congrats on everything. We should catch up sometime, maybe brunch? The hive would love to see you. I stared at the screen, my heart pounding. For a moment, the old longing stirred, the ache to be included, to sit at that table again. But then I picture my clothes hanging in women's closets across the country. I picture my name on those labels. I picture the applause after my panel speech, the DMs from girls who felt stronger because of me. I smiled, shook my head, and left her message on scene. Because here's the truth. They kicked me out of the friend group. And in doing so, they gave me the best gift of all. They forced me to find myself. And I became more than a member of the hive. I became a brand of my own. I used to think validation only came from sitting at the right table, wearing the right bracelet, being in the right photo. But standing in that studio during my collection launch, watching women slip into clothes with my name stitched inside, I realized validation feels different when it's earned. It's quieter, deeper, almost sacred. The press noticed. Local magazines ran features about the girl who turned betrayal into business. A popular lifestyle blog interviewed me over Zoom, asking how I transformed heartbreak into a fashion brand. I sat there in my apartment, still using the same chipped coffee mug, answering questions with the same honesty I'd poured into my captions. The interviewer leaned in and said, Alyssa, your story resonates because it's real. So many people have been excluded, abandoned, betrayed, and they need to see what's possible on the other side. Her words stuck. I wasn't just styling outfits anymore. I was styling resilience. Of course, the more my name spread, the more the hive couldn't ignore it. I found out one afternoon through Claire, who still had friends in their orbit. Guess who was talking about you at brunch today? She said, smirking over the phone. I groaned. Don't tell me.
Lauren.
She was bragging that she always knew you'd do big things, Claire said, air quoting through the line. Like she somehow gets credit. I laughed, sharp and bitter. Of course she is. But deep down, it didn't surprise me. Lauren had always had a way of spinning stories so that everything orbited around her. Now, instead of admitting she pushed me out, she was rewriting the narrative. She saw my potential. Let her talk. I had my own narrative now, and it was louder. The next turning point came when a major women's empowerment conference invited me as a keynote speaker. Me, on stage, under bright lights, with an audience of thousands. The night before, I sat in my hotel room staring at the speech I'd written, my hands trembling. Could I really do this? Could I stand up there and tell the story of being humiliated, erased, discarded, without falling apart? I thought about that cafe brunch, Lauren's smirk, the empty chair that should have been mine. My chest ached. But then I thought about the messages in my inbox. Women saying my posts helped them leave toxic friendships, where bold colors they'd always feared finally feel like they belonged in their own skin. I whispered to myself, this isn't about them anymore. This is about everyone who needs to hear it. The next morning, I stepped on stage. The lights blinded me at first, but then I saw them. Rows and rows of faces, women waiting to hear what I had to say. I took a deep breath and began. I was kicked out of my friend group. They told me the vibe was better without me. For months, I believed them. I thought I wasn't enough. But here's what I learned. Sometimes rejection isn't a reflection of your worth. It's a redirection toward your purpose. The room went silent, hanging on every word. I told them about crying in my car, about sitting on the floor of my condo whispering, what did I do wrong? I told them about posting that first outfit photo, shaky and uncertain, and about the thousands of women who had since joined me on the journey. And then I ended with this. They kicked me out of their hive. But I didn't stay small. I built my own. And now it's buzzing louder than theirs ever did. The applause was deafening. Afterward, women lined up to hug me, to tell me their own stories of exclusion. One woman whispered, tears in her eyes, I thought I was the only one. Another said, you gave me permission to leave people who never valued me. I went back to my hotel that night exhausted but alive in a way I'd never felt before.
I didn't just have a brand.
I had a movement. But movements attract attention from supporters and from those who once dismissed you. 2 weeks after the conference, I got a DM from Brooke. Hey Alyssa, I know things were rough, but I just wanted to say I'm proud of you. Would love to reconnect. I stared at the message for a long time. Brooke had been the one who copied my outfit caption, the one who smirked silently while Lauren exiled me. And now, here she was extending an olive branch. I didn't reply. Not yet. The truth was, my heart wasn't sure what it wanted. Part of me ached for closure, for some version of reconciliation. But another part whispered, be careful. They only come back when you're shining. Success kept climbing. My follower count passed 150,000. The capsule collection turned into a full collaboration with the retailer, and this time, my face was on the campaign posters. I walked past a bus stop one afternoon and froze. There I was, larger than life, wearing one of my designs, smiling confidently. For a girl who once sat alone crying in her car, it felt surreal. That night, I poured a glass of wine and sat on my balcony, staring at the skyline. I thought about the hive. Where were they now? Probably at another rooftop dinner, taking another selfie, laughing at another inside joke. But this time the thought didn't sting, because I finally realized I didn't want to sit at their table anymore. I was building a bigger one. Still, the ghosts showed up in unexpected ways. One Friday, I stopped at the cafe where it had all ended. The same cafe where Lauren told me I didn't belong. I hadn't been back since. As I stood in line for a lavender latte, memories washed over me. The empty chair, the humiliation, the tears. My chest tightened, my throat burned. But then I looked around. No one was laughing at me now. No one was pointing. I was just another customer, another woman ordering coffee. And yet, I was so much more. When I walked out with my cup in hand, I paused on the sidewalk, the sun warming my face. I whispered, "You didn't break me." And I realized I meant it. That night, Lauren messaged me again. "Saw your campaign posters today.
Congrats.
You've really made it. We should do brunch and celebrate our treat." I stared at the screen, my lips curling into a smile that wasn't bitter this time, but free. I typed back, slowly, deliberately. "Thanks, but I'm good. I already have my own hive." Then I hit send. For the first time in years, I wasn't chasing anyone's approval. I wasn't waiting for an invitation. I was the invitation. And this time, only people who valued me would have a seat at my table. The first time I saw my face on a billboard, I cried. I was driving downtown, half distracted by a podcast, when I looked up and there it was, my capsule collection, my name, my designs. "Styled by Alyssa," in bold letters stretched across a building. I pulled over to the side of the road, put my hazard lights on, and just stared. For years, I'd been erased from photos, cropped out of group selfies, left off invitations. And now, I was 10 stories tall, unignorable. I whispered to myself, "They can't take this away." By then, my brand wasn't just an Instagram page. It was a business. I had a manager, a small team, and contracts with companies I'd only ever admired from a distance. People were calling me an entrepreneur, an influencer, a role model. But inside, I was still the girl who had once begged for a chair at the table. And that girl kept whispering, "Do they see you now? Do they regret it?" The answer came sooner than I expected. One afternoon, I was tagged in a post from a gossip-style account that covered local social circles. The headline made my stomach flip. "Ex-friend group regrets cutting out rising fashion star." I clicked. The article was short but brutal. An anonymous source from within the hive admitted that maybe it wasn't fair how they excluded me, that they didn't realize how much she had to offer. At first, I laughed bitterly. Didn't realize? I'd been offering loyalty, creativity, and friendship for years. They didn't want to see it. But then I read the comments under the post. Strangers, even mutual acquaintances, were calling them out. Kicking someone out like that? Nasty. Alyssa's thriving without them. Look who really lost. This is why you don't dim someone's light. For the first time, the narrative wasn't theirs. It was mine. And the world saw the truth. That night, Brooke reached out again. "Alyssa, I know we hurt you."
I'm sorry.
"We all are. We should have never cut you out. Can we talk?" I sat on my couch, phone in hand, staring at her message. My hazel eyes filled with tears, but not the kind I used to cry. These were complicated, part vindication, part grief, part exhaustion. I typed, then erased. Typed again. My heart wanted to scream, "It's too late." But my fingers hovered over the keyboard, frozen. I didn't reply.
Not yet.
The following week, I flew to New York for a fashion event. Me on a plane, in heels and a blazer, invited to mingle with designers I'd once only admired on Pinterest boards. As I stood in the event hall, surrounded by flashing cameras and runway lights, I felt out of place at first. But then a woman approached me, smiling warmly. "You're Alyssa, right? Styled by Alyssa? I love your work. My teenage daughter follows you. She says you've given her more confidence than anyone else online." My throat tightened. This was bigger than fashion. This was impact. I thanked her, posed for photos, shook hands. And when I left that night, walking down Fifth Avenue with my heels clicking on the pavement, I realized I didn't need the hive's forgiveness. I already had something better, the trust of women who actually believed in me. But the universe wasn't done testing me. Back home, I stopped by the same cafe where my exile had happened. I don't know why, maybe curiosity, maybe closure. And there they were. Lauren, Brooke, Hannah, and Jess. Sitting at their usual table, sipping their usual mimosas, laughing. But this time, their laughter was strained. Their eyes flicked toward me the second I walked in. I froze in the doorway. My chest tightened, my palms dampened. For a moment, I was 27 again, humiliated, unwanted. But then I straightened my shoulders. I wasn't that girl anymore. I walked past their table to order my drink. I could feel their eyes on me, heavy, searching. As I waited for my latte, Brooke's voice called softly, "Alyssa?" I turned. She looked nervous, her hands clasped around her glass. "We miss you." Lauren chimed in, her tone careful. "We were stupid, Alyssa. Really stupid. You didn't deserve that. You're incredible." The room tilted. For years, I'd fantasized about this moment, about hearing those words, about them finally admitting I was worthy. But standing there, I realized something startling. I didn't care anymore. I smiled politely. "Thank you. But I've built something on my own. I don't need to go back." Their faces fell. Lauren opened her mouth, then closed it. Hannah looked away. Jess's eyes filled with something like regret. I picked up my latte and left. And as I walked down the street, the autumn wind tugging at my blazer, I felt lighter than I ever had. That night, I journaled. I wrote. I thought revenge would look like being invited back to their table. But real revenge is realizing I don't want the seat anymore. I closed the journal, tears slipping down my cheeks, not from sadness, but from freedom. They had kicked me out. And yes, it broke me. But in breaking, they gave me the space to rebuild stronger. And the girl they thought wasn't enough? She was everywhere now. When my billboard went up in Los Angeles, I got a message from an old college classmate. "Alyssa, I just saw you towering over Sunset Boulevard. You've made it." The words felt surreal. I sat in my kitchen, still in sweatpants, sipping coffee, staring at that message like it was proof I wasn't dreaming. But it wasn't just a billboard. It was the culmination of everything I'd fought for. The nights crying on my condo floor, the shaky first photo, the whispers of doubt. And now, my brand wasn't just local. It was national. I'd been invited onto morning shows, interviewed on podcasts, even featured in a glossy magazine under the headline, "From Rejected to Renowned, the woman who built a brand out of betrayal." I clipped that page and stuck it to my fridge, not as a shrine, but as a reminder. Pain can grow wings. With success, though, came something I hadn't expected: exposure. Everywhere I went, people seemed to recognize me. Women stopped me in grocery stores to thank me. Teenagers asked for selfies. Even men in suits told me their wives followed my brand. And as my light grew brighter, the hive's shadows got darker. Claire filled me in one night over wine. Hannah's relationship fell apart. Jess is barely scraping by at her job. And Lauren, she paused, eyes widening. Lauren tried to launch her own lifestyle blog. It flopped. No one cared. I sat back, the wine glass cool in my hand. A small, mean part of me wanted to smile, to whisper, "Karma." But another part ached, because once upon a time, I had loved these women. I had given them my loyalty, my weekends, my secrets. Now they were strangers. The strangest thing, though, was the regret that came pouring in. Brooke sent me another DM. "Alyssa, I'm so sorry for everything. We were jealous. We didn't know how to handle your energy. Please let me make it up to you." Even Jess, the quiet one, emailed me through my brand's contact form. "I don't expect forgiveness. I just want you to know, I regret staying silent." And then Lauren, the queen bee herself, posted publicly. A photo of her at brunch, captioned, "Sometimes you don't realize the value of someone until they're gone. We lost a good one." The comments tore her apart. People wrote things like, "You mean the girl you humiliated?" and "Too little, too late." I didn't comment. I didn't need to. The truth was loud enough without me adding a word. Around this time, my brand reached 500,000 followers. We were shipping clothes worldwide, and my inbox was overflowing with speaking requests. At first, I was terrified, standing on stage in front of thousands. But I said yes, again and again. And every time I told my story, I was kicked out of a friend group. I thought it destroyed me.
But it saved me.
Because it forced me to find my own worth, to build something no one could erase. Women lined up afterward, hugging me, crying, whispering, "Thank you. You gave me courage." And in those moments, I understood something powerful. My belonging didn't come from a group chat anymore. It came from the community I had created, one post, one story, one outfit at a time. One evening, I scrolled back through my old photos, the ones where I was still part of the hive, smiling in group shots, arms around shoulders, matching outfits. I studied my own face. I looked happy. But looking closer, I saw the cracks. The way my smile was always a little tighter. The way my eyes searched for approval. And then I looked at my recent photos, me in bold suits, laughing freely, standing tall at conferences. The difference was startling. For so long, I'd thought they had taken my shine. But the truth was they never saw it. Now, the whole world did. The final test of that year came at an awards gala. I was nominated for Entrepreneur of the Year. The kind of event with red carpets, photographers, champagne glasses clinking. I wore one of my own designs, a sleek black gown with gold detailing, my hair swept into a loose bun. As I stepped into the venue, flashes went off, people called my name, microphones shoved toward me. And then in the crowd I saw them. Lauren.
Brooke. Jess.
They weren't in gowns or on the red carpet. They were in the audience, watching. Their eyes met mine for just a second, and in that glance, I saw everything. Envy, regret, longing. For years, I had dreamed of this moment, not just success, but them seeing it. Them knowing I had made it without them. And here it was. When my name was announced as the winner, I walked on stage to a standing ovation. My heart pounded, my hazel eyes glittering with tears. I took the award in my hands, heavy and shining, and stepped to the microphone. I could have used that moment for revenge. I could have said their names, exposed their cruelty, rubbed it in. But instead, I smiled and said, to anyone who's ever been told they're not enough, to anyone who's been excluded or rejected, you are not defined by the tables that don't offer you a seat. Build your own. And trust me, there will be plenty of people waiting to sit with you. The room erupted in applause. And when I looked down, I saw Lauren's face in the crowd. Pale, tearful, small. But I didn't feel bitter anymore. I felt free. That night, I placed the award on my dresser. I poured a glass of champagne, stepped onto my balcony, and stared out at the city lights. I thought about the girl who once whispered in her car, "What did I do wrong?" And I whispered back to her now, "Nothing. You were just in the wrong hive." The morning after the gala, I woke up to hundreds of messages. My speech had gone viral. Clips of me saying, "Build your own table" were everywhere, TikTok, Instagram, even LinkedIn. But the message that stopped me cold wasn't from a stranger. It was from Lauren. "You were amazing last night. I'm proud of you. I wish I could take back what I did. We were wrong. I was wrong." I stared at the words, my hazel eyes stinging. 10 years ago, those were the words I would have given anything to hear. Back then, I would have forgiven instantly, desperate to be welcomed back into their circle.
But now?
Now, they didn't carry the same power. I set the phone down and let the silence settle. For once, I didn't need her validation. That afternoon, I met Claire for lunch. She hugged me tight and said, "Do you realize what you did? You turned the ugliest moment of your life into your crown." I laughed, shaking my head. Sometimes I still can't believe it. Over salads and iced tea, we talked about everything. My next collection, the new community I was building, the messages from women who said they finally felt seen. Claire leaned in, her eyes warm. "You don't just have a brand, Allie. You have a family. One you built from scratch. One that actually deserves you." Her words hit me hard, because she was right. Belonging wasn't about being accepted into a group that didn't value me. It was about creating a space where people valued each other. A month later, I hosted my first community event, Styled Together, a pop-up where women could come try on clothes, share stories, and connect. When I walked into the venue that morning and saw the lines stretching down the block, my throat tightened. Women of all ages, sizes, and backgrounds stood waiting, not just for clothes, but for connection. Inside, the energy was electric. Women twirled in mirrors, took selfies, hugged strangers. And over I heard the same thing. Thank you for making me feel like I belong. By the end of the day, my feet ached, my voice was hoarse, but my heart was full. I looked around at the room buzzing with laughter and thought, this is my hive. This is what it was always meant to be. Of course, ghosts still lingered. One evening, I got another DM, this time from Jess. She wrote, I don't expect you to forgive me, but if you ever want to talk, I'll be here. I thought about it for a long time, about the silence she'd kept when Lauren humiliated me, about the years I'd spent aching for her friendship. And then I realized, forgiveness didn't mean letting her back in. It meant letting myself out of the cage of bitterness, out of the weight of old wounds. So I wrote back, I forgive you, but I've moved on. Her reply came minutes later. Thank you. Truly. And just like that, a piece of my heart felt lighter. The true closure, though, came months later in the most unexpected way. I was walking downtown when I saw them, Lauren and Brooke, sitting at an outdoor cafe table. No crowd around them this time. No sparkle, no inside jokes echoing. Just two women, older now, their laughter quieter, their eyes tired. For a second, I froze. Part of me wanted to turn away, but instead I kept walking, head high.
Lauren spotted me.
Her eyes widened, then softened. She gave a small, almost shy wave. I smiled politely, nodded, and walked on. And as I turned the corner, the strangest thing happened. I felt no anger, no bitterness, just peace. Because I finally understood. They had cut me out of their hive. And for years, I thought that meant I was broken. But really, it freed me to build something bigger, louder, stronger. Something that belonged to me. That night, I stood on my balcony again, the city lights sparkling like constellations. I thought about the girl I once was, the one crying in her car, whispering, what did I do wrong? And I whispered back to her now, nothing. You were never the problem. You were the brand all along. I raised a glass of champagne to the skyline and smiled. They kicked me out of the friend group, I said softly, and that's how I found myself. And in that moment, I knew. I didn't just survive betrayal. I turned it into my empire.